Hello everyone.
You are now unmuted.
Okay. So hello everyone. Welcome to the National Daily Analysis and UPSC Topic Analysis. And today on 24th of October 2020, we are going to analyze some important topics for the UPSC Civil Services Examination. So let us see what are the topics we are going to understand today. Okay. So these are the topics that we will learn today. Okay. So we will learn. Just give me a minute. Okay, so we are going to look into the Global Wealth Report, the Consumer Price Index for industrial workers. Then we will understand about Antitank Guided Missile (NAG). Then we will understand about INS Kabharati. Okay, INS stands for Indian Naval Ship. Okay, Kabharati. So we are going to look into these topics today. So let us move to the first topic. Okay, the first topic is Global Wealth Report. Okay, this particular report has been released by Credit Suisse. Okay, so Credit Suisse is a company, it is a private company which is located in Switzerland. Okay, so this particular company annually releases the Global Wealth Report. Okay, so why it was in news recently? Because recently the Credit Suisse has released the Global Wealth Report for the year 2020, and the report provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date coverage of information of household wealth worldwide. Okay, so this is all about the report. Okay, now if you talk about the Credit Suisse, we have already talked, like it is a financial services company which is based in Switzerland. Okay, you can see the logo of the Credit Suisse company, and this is how the Credit Suisse company looks like. And apart from this, there are some details about this particular report related to Indian scenario and the global scenario. So we will see like how this particular report talks about the scenario in India. Okay, then we will analyze the global scenario with respect to Global Wealth Report, and then we will look into the way forward. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to understand today. So if we look into the Indian scenario, the household wealth in India is dominated by property and other real estates. Although financial assets have grown over time, now forming 22% of the gross assets. Okay, so as you know, most of the people in India, they prefer to have property. Okay, they prefer to have property and other real estate assets. Okay, rather than having financial assets. But the thing is, the financial assets have been constantly growing over the years. Now it has grown to 22% of the gross assets held by households in India. And apart from this, the stocks, bonds, bank deposits are some examples of the financial assets. Okay, so when we talk about financial assets, so these are those assets that are considered to be intangible assets. Okay, these are virtual assets. So if a person purchases some stocks, bonds, or submits into the bank, so this is known as bank deposits. So they are also a form of financial assets for the people. Okay, the average wealth of Indian adults rose marginally to US dollar 17,420 at the end of June 2020, as against US dollar 17,300 as of December 2019, showing some growth despite COVID pandemic and lockdowns. Okay, so what it is saying, that the average wealth of Indian adults, okay, so it has grown during it was there globally. Okay, during the time of lockdown also, the average wealth held by Indian adults has grown. Okay, then the wealth inequality remains quite high in India. Okay, so we already know, like wealth inequality is there. There is inequality with respect to other issues also. So wealth inequality remains quite high in India. So there is considerable poverty reflected in the fact that 73% of the adult population had wealth below US dollar 10,000 at the end of 2019. So this is some of the facts related to Indian scenario with respect to Global Wealth Report. We are going to look into some more facts, okay, with respect to Indian scenario that is covered in this particular report. At the other extreme, a small fraction of the population, which comprises of 0.3% of the adults had a net worth over US dollar 1 lakh. Okay, over US dollar 1 lakh. Now, with 4,593 ultra high net worth individuals in the country as of the end of 2019, India came fourth after the United States of America, China, and Germany. Okay, so when we talk about ultra high net worth individuals globally, okay, so ultra high net worth individuals globally, like when we compare different countries, so USA comes first, then comes China, then comes Germany, and at fourth place India comes. Okay, and between January and April 2020, unemployment rates approximately tripled in India to 24%. Okay, now let us look into some more issues associated with Indian scenario. So what are the challenges related to wealth inequality in India? Okay, so we face various challenges related to wealth inequality. Some of these challenges are distinguishing poor and non-poor people. So we do not have a clear demarcation officially also, okay, that can, segregate poor and non-poor on a proper manner. Okay, and so this is one of the challenge that we face, like in distinguishing poor and non-poor. Then low government spending. Okay, government also spends very low in various social services. Okay, then if we talk about impact on women, so this is another challenge. Okay, and apart from this, there are other challenges also. We are going to look into details in these challenges. Other challenges impact on vulnerables. Okay, so there are vulnerable section in this society, so this inequality impacts them a lot. We are going to understand them one by one. So let us look into what are the challenges that are related to wealth inequality in India. Okay, first topic under this is distinguishing poor and non-poor. Okay, so if we talk about developing countries, like in developing countries such as India, despite having hundreds of pro-poor schemes, the biggest question is whether such benefit is reaching the poor or not. Okay, the real challenge is in distinguishing the poor from non-poor, particularly when such data are questionable. Okay, so recently you might have heard about that, India has the highest number of unemployed youth, okay, in the like, which has crossed the last 45 years of thing. Okay, and the thing is, the government of India does not have proper data for maintaining the records of poor and non-poor, although we have more than hundreds of such government schemes that are pro-poor schemes, that are, that are intended to give benefits to the poor people. But actually in the real scenario, what happens, the benefits of these schemes do not reach to the last mile, do not reach to the grassroots level in the society. Okay, so this is one challenge that we face in India. And apart from this, if we talk about low government spending, okay, the government is spending on health, education, and social protection in the country is low, and more often than not subsidizes the private sector. Okay, so government in itself is spending very low on education, very low on healthcare. It has very low social protection in the country, and at the same time it subsidizes the private sector, so that private sector flourishes a lot. So from the government part is not doing adequate to meet the demands of the changing time. Okay, this is the second challenge that we face in India. If we talk about third challenge, it is on impact on women. Okay, the burden of inequality continues to be borne by Indian women. They continue to be tasked with bearing the burden of care work, thus withholding their entry into the labor force. Okay, so what does this mean? It simply means that, like, if we talk about India, most of the women who are considered as housewives or housemakers, so they are involved in doing care work. They are providing care to the family members in the household, and like there is no economic value associated with the care work that they are providing. Okay, so most of the women are, involved in care work, and it withholds their entry into the labor force. So the thing is, it is directly impacting the women. So women are mostly dependent on men or male for their, like when we compare the poor and non-poor, okay, if the man is poor, women will be poor. If the man is rich, women will be rich. So the thing is, their status is dependent on the status of the man in India. Okay, so this is the third issue that we are facing in India. And apart from this, if we talk about impact on vulnerables, okay, while traditionally vulnerable communities such as the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes are catching up with the rest of the society in primary education, they are falling behind when it comes to advanced, okay, like 12 years or more education. Okay, so the thing is, as you know, like in India, we do have various government programs. Under that government programs, we try to have social inclusion of the marginalized sections of the society. We try to include the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in enrollment into educational institutions. We try to give them jobs in government establishments. But when it comes to attainment of higher education by the vulnerable sections of the society, there is a stark, stark differences in the society, okay, when it comes to attainment of higher education by the people who are from the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. Okay, and most now have access to mobiles, but few have computers. Like most of these people from the vulnerable sections may have access to the mobile phones, but many of them have are lacking accessibility to computers, and too many people are still just one illness away from poverty. As per the United Nations Development Program's 2019 Human Development Report, okay, so the Human Development Report of the United Nations Development Program talks about that out of pocket expenditure is very high in India. Let's consider there is a poor family. If one member of that particular poor family happens to like go through some illness, then like out of pocket expenditure will be so high that they will be driven into poverty. Okay, so the entire family will be driven into more poverty. Okay, they will be indebted. So this is the thing. So when we talk about accessibility to the healthcare sector, okay, we have very less number of healthcare establishments in India. We have fewer numbers of healthcare professionals who are working in the healthcare sector, and those professionals prefer to stay or prefer to work in the urban areas and in metro cities. They do not prefer to serve in the rural areas where marginalized sections of the society are residing. Okay, so these are the challenges that we faced in India. Okay, and apart from this, climate change will only exacerbate the inequality. It simply means like climate change increases the inequality in India. So if you want to learn more about this particular report in Indian scenario and in global scenario, you can follow this link from Indian Express. Apart from this, we will look into the global scenario, what happens globally. Okay, so in 2019, total global wealth rose by US dollar 36.3 trillion, and wealth per adult reached US dollar 77,309, which is 8.5% more when compared to 2018. As a consequence, the world has been better placed to absorb any losses from COVID-19 during 2020. However, the total household wealth dropped by US dollar 17.5 trillion between January and March 2020. It represents a 4.4% decrease compared to the value at the end of the 2019. And if we talk about Asia Pacific, okay, Asia Pacific is the highest contributor to the household wealth. Okay, and globally, if we talk about female workers, okay, female workers have suffered disproportionately, partly because of their high representation in business and industries such as restaurants, hotels, personal service, and retail that have been badly affected by the pandemic. Okay, so if you want to learn more about this particular report, if you want to read from the exact report, you can follow this reference link from Credit Suisse itself. Okay, so having understood the global scenario and Indian scenario, let us see what are the way forward related to this report. Okay, so given the damage inflicted by COVID-19 on the global economy, it seems remarkable that household wealth has emerged relatively unscathed, okay, or unscathed, okay, I'm sorry for this, okay, there is a spelling mistake, okay, it seems relatively unscattered, okay. Wealth acts as a form of self-insurance that households can draw upon when times are hard, okay. So what is the, like, what is the, like, applicability of wealth? Like, if households have more wealth, so when the times are very hard, when the economic situation is going down globally and in the country itself, so households can take help from the wealth that they have held with themselves, and it will act as an insurance for them. How insurance means, during hard time, this wealth that have been accumulated by the households will be beneficial, it will be used during the hard times, okay. Then raising economic inequality has become an important issue for overall development of India, with the focus being shifted to inclusive growth in the past years. Then by increasing social spending, changing gendered attitude towards care work, and ensuring the wealthy pay their share, the government can reduce inequality. Okay, so how government can reduce inequality? By increasing social spending, by changing the, gendered attitudes in the society. Like, people have, gender stereotypes in the society, where, like, as you know, like, Indian society is male dominated society, we have patriarchal form of society, like in most of the places in India. It is not the case in everywhere in India, but like in most of the places the society is patriarchal in nature. So what we have to do, we have to make the society more gender inclusive, so that, like, women's also get equal, attention, equal care, equal respect in the society as men, okay. And apart from this, ensuring wealthy pay their share means, like, wealthy people should not be evading their taxes, they should not be evading their responsibility to pay taxes to the government, they should be involved in doing some kind of, like, work, so that they can help the non-governmental NGOs who are working for the benefit of the grassroots society, okay. So this is how the inequality can be reduced, okay, in India. So that was all about this particular report. Now, having understood this report, let us move to the next topic, which is Consumer Price Index for Industrial Workers, CPI IW. It is known as CPI IW. We will understand why this topic was in news, because recently the Ministry of Labor and Employment has released the new series of Consumer Price Index for Industrial Worker with a base year of 2016. Okay, so Ministry of Labor and Employment has released a new series of CPI IW, okay, Consumer Price Index for Industrial Workers, with a base year of 2016. Okay, so now it is important for us to understand, like, what was the base year before the revised base year. Okay, so the new series of CPI IW with a base year of 2016 has replaced the existing series with base of 2001. Okay, earlier the base year for CPI IW was 2001, and they have now replaced it with base year of 2016. Why base year has been revised? So that, like, they can take into account the changing scenario in the economy, changing pattern of consumer behavior while consumers are purchasing the goods and services. Okay, so, like, if we compare 2001 and 2016, there has been a lot of changes, okay, in the consumption pattern in the society. Then the share of consumption pattern has also changed. So it is very important for us to look into, like, what is CPI IW. We will understand, okay, like, consumer price index for industrial worker, what it is, we will understand this thing. Okay, this CPI IW is mainly used for determining the dearness allowance paid to the central or state government employees and workers in the industrial sectors, besides measuring inflation in retail prices, fixation and revision of minimum wages in scheduled employments. Okay, so this is the, this is the applicability of CPI IW. Like, CPI IW is mainly used for determining the dearness allowance, okay, that is being paid to the government employees who are employed in the central government or state government jobs, or they are working in industrial sectors. Then CPI IW is compiled and maintained by the Labor Bureau, which is an attached office of the Ministry of Labor and Employment. Okay, so Labor Bureau is an attached office of the Ministry of Labor and Employment. And this CPI IW, base year has been changed by the Ministry of Labor and Employment. So having understood the CPI IW, let us talk about what does the new series talk about. Okay, so what is all about new series? We will look into this thing. The new series with the base year of 2016 covers the latest consumption pattern of the target population. Okay, it gives more weightage to spending on wealth, on health, education, recreation, and other miscellaneous expenses, while reducing the weight of the food and beverages. Okay, so what is the change? They want to cover the latest consumption pattern. This is one thing. Apart from this, they have given more weightage to health, education, recreation, and miscellaneous expenses. Okay, apart from this, the weight of spending on housing and clothing, okay, increased from 15.2% to 17%. Okay, when we talk about housing and clothing, the spending on housing and clothing has increased from 15.2% to 17%. Apart from this, the weight of miscellaneous items like education and health rose from 30.31% to 30.31% to, okay, this is like 33.26%. Okay, this is the thing. Now if we talk about weight, if we talk about weight on food and beverages, it was reduced from 46.2% to 39%, and it indicates an increase in the disposable income. Okay, disposable income is the additional money that the households may have with them, so that they can use that particular income for any purpose that they wish to. Okay, so the new series, like if we talk about the crux, the new series covers the latest consumption pattern. It gives more weightage to health, education, recreation, and miscellaneous activities. Okay, then in housing and clothing, clothing, the spending of households has increased. In miscellaneous items also it has increased. Okay, then if we talk about food and beverages, the the spending of the households has reduced. Okay, it shows that like there is an increase in the disposable income with the households. Then apart from this, the number of markets and the sample size for working class family income and expenditure surveys were increased. It simply means any type of survey that they are conducting, the survey does not include all and every person, like it does not include each and every person of the country. What they do, they conduct a survey of a particular sample of people, they may be taking sample of let's consider 100 central government employees. Okay, 100 like state government employees. They may be including 50 employees from the industrial sector and all. So this is known as sample size. So the thing is, if we talk about the recent survey, in the recent survey, what has happened, the sample size has increased. Okay, so the thing is, the sample size was increased from 41,040 families to 48,384, and also the number of selected markets for collecting retail price data was increased from 289 to 317. Okay, so this is about sample size. Then the number of items in the index basket has increased to 463 items as against 392 items in the 2001 series. The Labor Bureau is also working towards revising the index every 5 years. Okay, so as you know that the recent changes was like after 15 years, or after more than 15 years period, because earlier base year was 2001. Recently, after revision, they have made the base year to be 2016. So there has been a huge gap. So that's why the Ministry of Labor and Employment is working towards revising the index every 5 years. Okay, so that will be more appropriate, because like it will be able to include more recent data for coming out with consumer price indexes. Okay, so there are a lot more that we are going to understand in this particular topic. Now we will understand what are the effect of changing changing the CPI with the new base year. Okay, what are the impact? Okay, we are going to talk about the effects of this particular thing. Okay, so the new series would not have an immediate impact on the dearness allowance, as the government has freezed biannual hike in dearness allowance since January 2020 to offset the financial implications on the exchequer during the coronavirus pandemic. Okay, so the thing is, during the coronavirus pandemic in January 2020, government of India has frozen this particular thing exercise for some time, that like we are not going to have biannual hike. Biannual means like every 2 years the government of India used to increase the dearness allowance, taking into account the inflation. Okay, so the thing is, the new series will not have an immediate impact. Why? Because government has frozen this particular thing. Okay, then the dearness allowance is a component of the salary, and it is revised every 6 months to keep pace with the inflation rate. Okay, and what do we mean by inflation? Inflation simply means general level of rise in prices of goods and services in an economy. Okay, when there is a general rise in the level of prices of goods and services over a sustained period of time, we say that like inflation in the economy is increasing. Okay, so the thing is, the dearness allowance component is revised every 6 months by the government, but a biannual hike is done by the government. Okay, why government does it? To keep pace with the inflation rate. And for private sector workers, the central government and most states increase the variable dearness allowance component of minimum wages twice a year based on the consumer price index, industrial workers, okay, inflation numbers. However, the change in base year will certainly have an effect on dearness allowance calculation by June 2021, when the freezing on dearness allowance will come to an end. Okay, so when the freezing on dearness allowance will come to an end, this will like this particular change, okay, changed CPI IW will have an effect on the dearness allowance, okay, that the central government employees and the state government employees are going to receive. And apart from this, it is very important for us to understand in detail about consumer price index. What do we mean by consumer price index? How many types of consumer price indexes are there? Which organization releases the consumer price index? We are going to discuss all of it now. Okay. So the consumer price index measures price changes from the perspective of a retail buyer. It is released by the National Statistical Office. Okay. So CPI is released by the National Statistical Office. The CPI or consumer price index calculates the difference in the price of commodities and services such as food, medical care, education, electronics, etc., which Indian consumers buy for use. Okay, the CPI has several subgroups including food and beverages, fuel and light, housing and clothing, bedding and footwear, etc. Then at present, India has five consumer price indexes or five consumer price indices. Three of these are for working class specific. Okay, three of these are working class specific. These are consumer price index for industrial workers, consumer price index for agricultural laborer, then consumer price index for rural laborer. Okay, so in India we have five consumer price indexes, and three of them are specific to the working class people. They are CPI for industrial worker, CPI for agricultural laborer, CPI for rural laborer. Okay, and apart from this, these three indexes are compiled by the labor bureau in the Ministry of Labor and Employment. The CPI for agricultural laborer and CPI for rural laborer are used to fix minimum wages for agricultural laborers and rural unskilled employees. Okay, the Labor Bureau is also expected to bring out new series of the CPI AL, and CPI AL means agricultural laborers or rural laborers, which currently has the base year of 1986 to 87 by August 2021. Okay, so when we talk about CPI agricultural laborer or rural laborer, they still have the base year of 1986 and 87. Okay, recently they have just changed the CPI for industrial workers, okay, IW, and it has been revised from 2001 to 2016. Okay, but Labor Bureau is expecting to come up with the revised base year for CPI AL and CPI RW by August 2021. When we talk about, so we have learned three out of the five consumer price indexes. Now let us talk about the other two consumer price indexes. Okay, so the other two consumer price indexes are consumer price index for urban and consumer price index for rural people. Okay, these two indexes are compiled by the National Statistical Office, in short NSO, in the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Okay, so CPI for urban and rural are compiled by NSO, National Statistical Office, in the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. The combined rise in retail prices is captured by the CPI combined. A committee set up by the National Statistical Commission in 2005 under the recommendation of Dr. C. Rangarajan Commission, okay, has suggested that CPI rural and CPI urban could be substitute for CPI agricultural laborer or CPI rural laborer, okay, and CPI industrial workers respectively. So they are saying like CPI rural can replace these two indices, which is CPI for agricultural laborers and rural laborers, and CPI urban can replace the CPI for industrial workers, okay. So these were the recommendation of Dr. C. Rangaranjan commission, okay. So having understood this, let us move forward to see what are the way forwards for this. Okay, there are some positive impact also. There are some negative things also associated with consumer price index. One of the thing is consumer price index are not revised on a regular basis. So government is trying to revise them on a 5-year basis. So let us see what are the way forwards, like what next steps needs to be done. The new series will serve as a useful reference book for researchers, academicians, scholars, and all other stakeholders of CPI IW. CPI IW means Consumer Price Index for Industrial Workers. Then the improvements made in the new series will make it more comparable at international level. It will help in measurement of macroeconomic indicators of the Indian economy. Okay, what are macroeconomic indicators? These are gross domestic product, gross national product, like that. Okay, so as per the recommendations of the International Labour Organization, Index Review Committee, and National Statistical Commission, the base year of price index numbers should be revised at frequent intervals, generally not exceeding 10 years, to reflect the changes that take place in the consumption pattern for consumers. Okay, so the thing is, I recommend you to go through this particular slide once again to learn everything in detail, because like there are a lot of information that you need to learn and understand. Okay, so let us see, a few graphs are given. Okay, few graphs are given. We will analyze these graphs. So we have seen that recently they have released a new series. Earlier it was like CPI for CPI in IW, like industrial worker, was for 2001. Now it has been made 2016, base year made 2016. So let us see like what is the what is the changed scenario now. Okay, so they have given various various statistics over here. So when we talk about group level weights of 2001, they have given a weightage of 100. Okay, so this series comprises of, like when we talk about 2001, this year, so like then the food was given a weightage of 46.2%. Okay, in 2016 series, the food and beverages are given 39.17%. So when we talk about food and beverages, the weightages have been reduced. Okay, again, if we talk about pan supari, tobacco, and intoxicants, like that, so earlier it had 2.27% weightages. Now it has 2.07% weightage. So again, when we talk about pan, supari, tobacco, and intoxicants, the weightage has been reduced. Okay, it has been reduced. Now, if we talk about fuel and light, it was earlier 6.43%. Now it is 5.5%. So in fuel and light also, the weightage given to the CPI IW has reduced. Okay, if we talk about housing sector, earlier it was 15.27%, now it is 16.87%. So in housing sector, there has been an increase in the weightage given to the CPI IW. If we talk about clothing, bedding, and footwear, earlier it was 6.57%, now it is 6.08%. So here also there is a decrease. Okay, there is a reduction. And if we talk about miscellaneous items, it was earlier 23.26%, now it is 30.31%. Okay, so in miscellaneous items also there has been an increase. So this is one comparison that we have done on the basis of group weights given to different baskets of goods that are included in the CPI IW. Apart from this, we will look into few more details, some more graphs. Okay, so the weights of three major groups under the base year 1982, 2001, and 2016. Okay, so they have compared the data of 1982, 2001, and 2016. Okay, 1982 is represented using, 2001 is represented using red color, and 2016 is represented using green color. So there is a comparison. If we talk about food and beverages, okay, so it has seen a constant decline. Okay, in 1982 it was 57%, 2001 46.2%, in 2016 it is 39.17%. So in case of food and beverages, the share in the consumer price index for industrial worker has constantly reduced. Okay, if we talk about housing group, okay, if we talk about housing group, there has been constant rise. It has constantly risen. Okay, like people like who are spending on housing activities. So earlier in 1982 it was 8.67%, in 2001 it was 15.27%, in 2016 it is 16.87%. So in housing group there has been a constant increase, constant rise. In case of miscellaneous also there has been a constant rise. Okay, so you can see this data: 16.36% for 1982, 23.26% for 2001, and 30.31% for 2016. So I hope you understood this particular infographic over here that compares the weights of three major groups, okay, with the base year of 1982, 2001 and 2016. Now there is another, like infographic for you for better understanding. So they talk about group wise indexes for September 2020 under base year of 2016. So this is like an estimated data. Okay, so you can just go through this particular infographic in the similar manner to understand it better in your free time. Okay, I have included two reference links for you. One of the reference link is from The Hindu, second is from the Press Information Bureau. Okay, so Press and Information Bureau is a is a publication from the government of India directly, and The Hindu is a very respected newspaper. So like it has been there before independence also. So it's more than 200 years old newspaper. So like you can follow these two links related to consumer price index for industrial workers. Okay, so this is all in this particular topic. Now, having understood this topic, let us talk about the third topic, which is anti-tank guided missile. Okay, anti-tank guided missile, NAG. We will understand. NAG is the name of the missile. Okay, anti-tank guided missile. Now we will understand what do we mean by anti-tank, do we mean by guided missile before we actually go into the details of this thing. Okay, so as you know, missiles are some weapons that we launch from ground based tanks. It may be launched from the aircrafts, it may be launched from the submarines. Okay, so the thing is, missiles are something like once we launch them, they follow a projectile motion. Okay, they follow a projectile motion, and once they hit a target, what they do, they destroy the target. Okay, so these missiles may have some warheads. Sometimes the warheads may be nuclear also. So the thing is, these missiles are fitted with some kind of warheads also. So as you know that NAG is the name of the anti-tank guided missile. Okay, what is anti-tank? It simply means this particular missile is made in such a manner so that it can destroy the tanks of the of our opponents. Okay, guided missile means this is a kind of missile. Let's consider once we launch it from somewhere, then we can guide this particular missile throughout its trajectory, throughout its motion. Okay, once it is launched from a place, then throughout its motion we can like monitor where it is going. We can maneuver its its path also. So this is known as guided missile. Okay, so this anti-tank guided missile NAG, we are going to understand about this thing in detail. So why this anti-tank guided missile was in news? Because recently the final user trial of third generation anti-tank guided missile ATGM NAG was carried out successfully from from Pokhran range in Thar Desert. Okay, from the state of Rajasthan. So they have done the user trial of third generation. It is a third generation anti-tank guided missile from Pokhran range in Thar Desert of Rajasthan. Okay, and it was developed by Defense Research and Development Organization. In short, it is known as DRDO. The NAG missile has been developed to strike and neutralize highly fortified enemy tanks. It also has night strike capabilities. Okay, so it has night strike capabilities. It can strike during nights also. Okay, so it may have night vision camera fitted in itself. Okay, then if we talk about anti-tank guided missile, so anti-tank guided missiles are missile systems that can strike and neutralize armored vehicles such as tanks. Okay, So having understood this, so it has a minimum range of 500 meters and maximum range of 4 kilometer. As a third generation fire and forget category system, okay, it is a fire and forget category system, like we can fire and we can forget, okay, so we can guide it where it can go, then like after firing we just forget, it will directly hit the target, okay. So as a third generation fire and forget category system, NAG uses an imagine infrared seeker to lock on to the target before launch. Okay, so some details related to this particular missile is given for you. You just need to go through this particular detail. Okay, so in the top attack mode, the missile is required to climb sharply after launch and travel at a certain altitude. Okay, then plunge on the top of the target. In the direct attack mode, the missile travels at a lower altitude, directly striking the target. It has a capability to defeat the main battle tanks equipped with composite and reactive armor. The Nag missile carrier, okay, which is known as Namika, is a Russian origin BMP, okay, BMP second based base system and amphibious capability. BMP-2 is a mechanized infantry fighting vehicle. Okay. Then version of NAG anti-tank guided missile. If we talk about this particular third version, so DRDO is currently in the final stage of the development of helicopter launched version of NAG anti-tank guided missile called Helena, which has undergone successful test in 2018. Okay. So what are the significance of anti-tank guided missile? With this final user trial, okay, with this final user trial, NAC will enter into production phase. The missile will be produced by defense public sector undertaking, okay, which is like Bharat Dynamics Limited, whereas Ordnance Factory Medak will produce the Namika. Okay, so this means that the Indian Army will no longer have to import this weapon from either Israel or USA for the range of 4 kilometers. It was due to unavailability of a credible anti-tank weapon that India had to buy around 200 pieces of Spike anti-tank missiles from Israel as emergency purchases after the aggression by the People's Liberation Army of China in Ladakh. Okay. So now if we talk about further, the army is currently using second generation Milan 2T and Conquer ATGM anti-tank guided missiles and has been looking for about third generation missiles which are important for stopping advancing enemy tanks. When we talk about other missile systems, the missiles have been developed by India under Integrated Guided Missile Development Program. Okay, so some details about this integrated guided missile development program is given for you. Okay, so it was conceived by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to enable India attain self-sufficiency in the field of missile technology. It was approved by the Government of India in 1983 and completed in March 2012. The 5 missiles, okay, which is known as Patna, developed under this program. Okay, Prithvi, Agni, Trishul, Nag, and there is another. Okay, so that is not included over here. So once I share this slide, so I'll be keeping this, I'll be making it little upward. Okay, so this is the thing. So you just need to read about the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program of the Government of India. Okay, then there are other recent tests also that have been conducted by the government. You can just read about it in your free time. Then apart from this, I have included a reference link from NAG missile. Okay, so you can follow this particular reference link to learn more about it. Okay, so having discussed this particular topic, let us move to the next topic for the day, which is INS Kabharati. Okay, we will understand about INS Kabharati. So you might have heard about this particular name, Kabharati. Kabharati is the capital of the Lakshadweep group of island. So this Indian naval ship, okay, INS stands for Indian naval ship. So this Indian naval ship has been named after the capital of Lakshadweep group of island, okay, which is Kabharati. So let us understand why it was in news. Recently, the INS Kabharati has been formally inducted into the Indian Navy at the Naval Dockyard in the Eastern Naval Command, Visakhapatnam. Okay, so this particular INS Kabharati has been inducted into the Indian Navy at the Naval Dockyard in the Eastern Naval Command, Visakhapatnam. It is named after the capital of Lakshadweep group of islands, and it is the last of the 4 indigenously built anti-submarine warfare stealth corvettes built under the Project 28, which is known as Kamortha class, okay, by Garden Reach shipbuilders and engineers, Kolkata, okay. So this is INS Kabharati. So some more information about this is given. The ship is regarded as one of the most potent ASW stealth uh, corvettes to have been constructed in India, as it joins three other ships of the same class of INS Kamortha, INS Kadmat, and INS Kilton. Okay, and its induction is a game changer in the eastern seaboard, especially in the Chinese submarines trying to increase their presence in the Indian Ocean. Then it has enhanced stealth features resulting into reduced radar crossing section, okay, achieved by the superstructure along with the optimally sloped surfaces. If we talk about INS Kavarati, okay, INS Kavarati and INS Kilton are the first two major warships in the country to have the unique feature of the superstructure made of carbon fiber composite material. Okay, so we have some more information related to INS Kavarati. It has high indigenous content with the state-of-the-art equipment and the systems to fight in nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare conditions, which is known as NBC warfare conditions. Okay, nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare conditions. Some of the major equipments or systems developed indigenously include combat management system, torpedo tube launchers, and infrared signature suppression system. Okay, then the high level of indigenization incorporated in the production accentuates the objectives of Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. Means like it actually helps in the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, because INS Kavarati has been developed indigenously by using Indian technology. Okay, the ship is the reincarnation of the erstwhile Arnala class missile corvette of the same name, INS Kavarati. P-80, a ship that played an important role in the liberation of Bangladesh in 1971. Okay, so this is a revival of the earlier mission also. So you can follow this particular reference link from the Press Information Bureau to learn more about the INS Kavarati. Okay, it is very important. INS stands for Indian Naval Ship. Kabharati is the name of the capital of Lakshadweep group of island. So this Indian naval ship has been named after the Lakshadweep group of island. What it does, it protects our, southern frontier of India, which is like Indian Ocean. Okay, so this is all for today's discussion. I hope you understood everything. So if you have any queries, any doubt, you can type your queries there in our YouTube comment section. Okay, I hope you have a good day ahead. Okay, bye bye, take care.